Slate After Dark. My name is Greg Waddell. With me, we've got head coach Steve Prohm and RC Wake Forest legend Randolph Childress. We got a great show planned for you. We're going to break down some of the biggest games from tonight, from yesterday, from the entire weekend. But first, please, if you're watching this on the Field of 68 YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any of the After Dark shows that we put out. You can also listen to us on Channel 84 on Sirius XM ESPNU. Fellas, how we doing? We made it through the weekend, Coach. I mean, you look happy to be here tonight. I can see it on your face.
Yeah, no, great weekend. Had a couple good games today and a couple good blowouts yesterday, man. Some convincing wins by some teams yesterday. And so ready for Big Monday tomorrow.
RC, how you doing?
Can't complain, man. Ready to have a good show tonight.
Yeah, let's rock. We're gonna talk about a lot of things tonight. We got a chance, the three of us did, to sit down with Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson coming off their big road win tonight. We will get to that in a little bit and also break down what we think of the Cougars and their chances come March this season. We're also going to talk about who should be number one. Gonzaga. The Bulldogs have been dominant lately. Blowout win after blowout win over on the West Coast. Is it time for Gonzaga to take over the number one spot in the AP poll? We will discuss. But first, let's start with the action from today. There was a big one in the Big East. Providence, the Friars, the quote-unquote luckiest team in the country, as our own Jeff Goodman has been prone to say, was down at the half, down 3 points to a Georgetown team that has not been extremely competitive every game this season. They come back in blowout fashion, win the second half 44-22. They win by 19 points, 71-52 to move to 20-2 on the season. Steve, let's go to you first. Are the Friars for real?
Yeah, they're for real. I mean, 20-2, 10-1 in league play, first in the Big East by 2 games in a loss column over Villanova. But they still have Nova twice. They got to go there, but Villanova's got to come to Providence. But also, you know, they've got 7 wins away from home, and that's a lot of wins. You know, they're 6-1 on the road. They're for real. They beat Wisconsin. They've beaten Texas Tech, you know, UConn, Seton Hall, Xavier, Marquette. They're for real. They play in a phenomenal league, and they've taken the identity on of Ed Cooley, their head coach, and they've run with it.
RC, they're 2 games in the loss column ahead of Villanova at this point. And the Big East, as Coach just mentioned, is a competitive conference. Are they actually the favorite to win the Big East at this point?
I've been saying it all year. I know our boy Rob has been before UConn, before he fell off on the UConn bandwagon. I know you listening, Rob. I know.
Is he all the way off?
You know, he's never going to be all the way off. He's never going to be all the way off. He's still holding on to something. I've been on them all year. I just think I like the makeup of their team, and I said it with Bynum and I think with Durham. They got closers now. They got depth. And more importantly, they don't have that NBA starter that we're accustomed to, or, you know, anybody's accustomed to looking for. But what they do have for that NBA guy is probably 10 fouls per position. So they're going to have bodies to throw at you. You know, we talk about Nate Watson. If he isn't playing well, they just throw Cromwell in there. So I like the team. I just think they take on, you know, Ed's personality. They're going to defend. And more importantly, like I said, we've questioned some of their ability to close. I think they got 2 guys that they can rely on. No different than what they did today. I thought Bynum today was sensational.
So looking ahead, there's 6 games left on their Big East schedule. They've got Villanova twice. So Villanova, who has 3 losses in conference play, can certainly catch up to these guys. I have a hard time squaring the quote unquote luck that Providence has with just grit and toughness. Like, yeah, this team is thrown in some games where they have to muck it up, but they're damn good at mucking it up. Like, I was looking in the box score today because I flipped on in the second half, and I'm like, how are they struggling with Georgetown? As soon as I flipped it on, they start running away with the game. But I'm looking at the box score, like, there's not a guy in the starting lineup for Providence who was killing today. It was Jared Bynum, 32 points off the bench. And they seem like the type of team where any given night, somebody just steps up and makes some plays. Now, the other thing with Providence is the metrics don't love these guys. I mean, Ken Pom has them 41st in the country today, even though they're 20-2. Coach, I got to ask you, how do you square that as a coach? Like, if you just keep hearing that, man, like you're not as good as your record shows, does that wear you down at some point?
No, I don't think so. I think if you go off Ed Cooley's personality, and if there was a clip, I think when they were playing Seton Hall, he was right in front of his guys and just challenging them about, hey, this is a toughness game, this is a character game, this is about grit. They probably love that. Even when he was talking to Fana that one night about, hey, let's just be the luckiest team in America then. It's gotten us this far. We're 20-2. And so I think that they don't beat themselves, I think, number one. And then number two, like Randolph touched on, different guys can step up and be great on different nights. And when you have 5 guys that are double-figure scores, right around that, I think 9.5 is their 5th guy. When you have that, man, A, you're a tough scout, and B, it can be one guy get 20 this night, one the next night, and then it's hard to win in Providence. I mean, that's a tough place to play. It's a tough travel, and it's a tough place to play in that environment.
So RC, I was playing this game with Carter Elliott, my Sleepers Media counterpart, earlier this week, where we were going through teams in the top 25 and deciding collectively whether or not we could see them making a Final Four run this season. And a common theme that kept coming up for us as we did this exercise was that the team would have a quote unquote the guy who we could point to and just say, like, okay, you get that dude the rock. He takes care of you down the stretch in a tight game. He's good enough who can just propel you to wins when needed. Michigan State, for example, our Spartans don't have the guy. Providence was the one team that Carter and I collectively were like, we can see them going to a Final Four, but we can't name who the guy is on that team. Does that matter to you when you project this team's potential success in March?
I think we all know one of the reasons why is because I've said this. I don't know who has a better resume. I mean, Steve, we were talking earlier and we're wondering, like, why is this team not in the top 10? Like, who has a better resume with the wins they have, in conference play? They're 10-1 in the Big East, but they also got a win over Wisconsin and Texas Tech. Like, I don't, and I know guys weren't, always, not totally there. They had guys missing, but like Ed's had, Providence has had guys missing as well. So I don't understand it. It's not for me to understand, but you can tell this group has just used it for fire. So as Ed said, let us continue to be lucky. But for me, I think they're a top 10 team. Let's just call it what it is. And when you look at the resume, if we just take the name off and take Providence off and do a blind resume, I don't know. Maybe Auburn has a better resume than they have right now. I mean, maybe.
Their 7th best win is Northwestern on a neutral floor. If you want to break it down from the high majors, we talked to earlier, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, UConn, Seton Hall, Xavier, Marquette. For them to be 20-2 and them to be 10-1 or 11-1 in the Big East and to be 15th in the country, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And it should keep a chip on their shoulder, but I think that's what Ed Cooley and the Providence Friars, feed off of. And so, like I said, they've got Nova twice. If they could get a split there, they got a great chance to win the Big East regular season title.
Yeah, they got 10 wins against the top 100 teams on Ken Pom, and really only one bad loss, I believe, to Virginia. You guys are right. At this point, this is the best resume in the country other than Auburn. And I think at some point the polls have to catch up. We'll see where they land tomorrow. But I think this Friars team is going to be a top 10 team in the country sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would assume they have 6 quad 1 wins. That's my guess. When you talk Wisconsin, Tech, Connecticut, Seton Hall, Xavier, Marquette, you would think those. The most anybody in the country has is 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so, come on, man. They're not top 10 in the country.
Yeah. No, they got to be. And I think they will be. We'll see where they land in the polls. But let's move to another team who held serve, another top 25 team, the Ohio State Buckeyes today with a 15-point home win against Maryland. E.J. Liddell, I don't even know if you can call it a quiet performance from him, but it was a quiet 24 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, as crazy as that sounds. They're 7-3 in the Big Ten right now. They are right In that group of 3 lost teams with Wisconsin, with Purdue, with Michigan State, RC, do you take the Buckeyes serious as a contender to win the Big Ten this season?
I mean, they're only one game out. You know, the Illini is 10-2, and they're right there, like you said, with Purdue, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. So I like the group. I mean, they gave Purdue a run, and Purdue made plays at the end and closed the game out. But you know, it took a great 3-pointer at the buzzer, but they were right there to play. I don't think they're afraid. They're a battle-tested team. The only thing that concerns me with Ohio State is they're just the freshman guards. You know, getting consistent play out of the freshman guards. You just can't. Some teams just, you know, you want to get old and stay old, and they got some talented freshmen. But again, they are a talented team that's relying on freshmen, and when you do that, you're going to be up and down.
Yeah, it's 2 things that scare me with Ohio State. It's the youth in the backcourt, and then it's the defense. And I don't think they're a horrific defensive team, but I don't think they're great. And we saw that bite Ohio State in March last year when they catch a matchup with a guy like Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner, who could just go off and shoot the lights out. I don't think Ohio State wants to get in a track meet with teams come March because they're not the type of team that can consistently get stops when needed. But at the same time, that hasn't stopped them from winning games and winning games comfortably as they did today. Coach, what's your take on the Buckeyes?
Yeah, well, they're good. Like you said, to touch on what you said, they're going to try to control the pace and play at their tempo. And so, number one, that's going to keep them with an opportunity to win every game they play, I believe. They're 1 game back in the loss column. I think, obviously, they're front court heavy, just like Randolph said. The guard play's got to be big down the stretch because when you get in a one-and-done situation, the guards got to be elite. They've got to be special, and some of them are young. And haven't been in that situation before. But when you break down their schedule, what they have left in their 8 remaining games, you know, they're all hard in conference play, but all those are winnable. They've got the 1 carrot at Illinois. If they can go win that road game, they have a legitimate chance to tie or be in a co-tie for the conference championship because they can hold serve at home. They're going to have to play well against Indiana and Michigan State. You know, they've got some road opportunities at Rutgers, at Michigan. They got to play well. But if they can go to Illinois and win, they're going to have a legitimate chance to be there in the end.
Yeah, they're also a team that you can't count out. And I think we saw that last week at Purdue. I mean, they were down, I want to say 15 down the stretch of that game. And then all of a sudden, you know, string a couple live turnovers together, hit a couple jumpers. They're right back into things. Speaking of Purdue, I think most Big Ten fans, even Illinois fans, I think would admit that Purdue is the most talented team in this conference. And if you really want to put a term on it, like we think Purdue is the best team in this conference. Do you guys agree with that at this point? They're a game back, right? Like they're not in first place at the top of the standings, and you know there's still questions with this team come March, both defensively and in the half court. Who's going to have the ball in their hands?
I think Purdue has been so talked about for so long this year. I think everybody wants it to be Purdue, and deservingly so. I mean, they're really good. But Illinois, to me, is playing the best basketball in the league right now, without a doubt. The one thing that Purdue, like we saw earlier in the year, that they can give Illinois problems is they can throw 2 different guys, and they can throw a swarm of guys at Kofi, and that can wear him down. And if Kofi gets in foul trouble against them, it can be really tough. But Purdue's everybody's sexy pick that everybody's talked about all year, but Illinois is playing the best basketball in the Big Ten. Brad Underwood, defensively, what he's done with Kofi out, with Andre Curbelo in and out of the lineup, the leadership of Trent Frazier, DeMonte Williams, and then the addition of Plummer, man, hats off to them, man. But the best team right now in the Big Ten is Illinois.
I agree. I completely agree. And the only knock I've had against Purdue is, again, 2 of your 3 best players can't be on the floor together. They cannot put their best 3 players on the floor. And that concerns me. I think they're a great team. They've been a top 10 team all year long, but something has to be said for the Illini being first place this late with the amount of games missed by key players. I mean, that's Kofi's missed games. They've won games without him. I mean, they've been the best team, and when they're with their guard play, they're going to be in every game, even if Kofi's out.
And I think the one thing Randolph just said to touch on is, Purdue can't have their best players on the floor all at the same time. I think that's why small ball almost created itself because, hey, how do we get our best 5 players on the floor at the same time? Well, you got to go small. You got to put a 4 at the 5, if you don't have that legitimate post threat, and provide matchup problems, play 5 guards, play a skilled forward at the 5, just to put your best scoring front or your best defensive lineup out there. But, again, I'm with Illinois right now.
I think that's fair. It's going to be a hotly contested race in the Big Ten down the stretch, as we said. Really 5 teams still in this thing right now. Illinois is holding the top spot. We'll see if they can hold on to it. Coming up next on After Dark, we are going to get to our interview with Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson, and then we will break down in depth what we think of Houston's chances come March. This is the Field of 68 After Dark on Sirius XM Channel 84.
Clear 90 seconds.
All right, let's get to some questions in the YouTube chat. Our producer, Dagan, is going to come in and hit them with us.
Thank you, Greg. And let's get to the first one here. Jackson Connor wants to know, are people discounting Texas after a slow start?
Yes. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't believe – I'm just not sold on Texas personally. I mean, obviously they're well coached. I just think it's too early, but I would say, yeah, I'm not. They wouldn't be amongst the top teams for me. I just
love that. Yeah, yes, they're being discounted, but also
I'm gonna discount them, but maybe it's not as much as others. But I'm gonna discount them. Go ahead.
I think Chris's team play the best here in the next month, but tomorrow night's a big telling game for them. Like, they have a great opportunity, big Monday, to play well at home, follow up a big win Saturday. They
30.
need to get this one tomorrow night if they can.
I'll give you one more quick one before we got to get back here. Pac-12 tournament teams, 2, 3, or 4?
4.
3 for me.
4.
Oh, Oregon. Oregon's the 4th.
Yeah.
I say Oregon, yes, 4.
Yeah.
Oregon's been playing really well lately. I enjoy watching that team.
Greg, I thought was that Dagan saying he had Washington State in before we
Oh
started?
no, that was
Bill Walton. Was that Bill Walton?
I can't lose my credibility around here just
Stanford. Yet. That was Bill Walton at 8.
Yes, he did.
You're live.
And we are back. It's the Field of 68 After Dark. Greg Waddell, Steve Prohm, RC Randolph Childress. Right now, we are going to talk about the Houston Cougars, undefeated in the American Conference this season. A blowout win on the road against Cincinnati today. They were up huge early. Things got, I don't want to say dicey, but Cincinnati trimmed that lead down quite a bit. And then Houston just took it right back from them and ran away with the game down the stretch. This Houston team, incredibly fun, incredibly tough. A lot of the things that fans have come to love about Houston in the last 3-4 seasons still apply to this Houston team. It doesn't matter the faces, the names of who's on court for this team. It's a Kelvin Sampson coached Houston Cougars team, and they're going to compete. They're going to play great defense. They're going to get up and down the floor, and they're going to score the basketball. We got a chance to talk to Kelvin Sampson. So we'll go to that interview in just a moment. But real quick, Coach, what was your takeaway from this game tonight with Houston?
Well, when you go on the road in Cincinnati, Wes Miller's a terrific coach. And Cincinnati's a tough environment, tough place to play. And you go in there and you handle your business and you jump up on them. I think I looked at the score right away. It was 18-4. Then you have your boys ready to go. And he had them ready to go. And anytime you go on the road like that in conference play, hats off to you. And big fan. And Kelvin was great in the interview, and got the utmost respect for him as a coach and a person.
All right, let's get right to the interview. When we come back, we will talk about Houston's chances going forward, and can they run the table in conference play? It is possible. But first, here is our interview with Coach Kelvin Sampson. We've got Coach Kelvin Sampson from Houston, fresh off a 22-point victory on the road at Cincinnati. First off, Coach, congrats on the win, and thanks for making time on the bus ride for us.
No problem, guys. Glad to be on with you. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, it's Randolph Childress here. Congratulations again on the win. I got to ask you, I know everyone else is wondering this as well. Despite the injuries, what adjustments have you made to kind of keep the ship rolling? Not many teams can sustain what you guys sustained, losing arguably the two best players.
You know, the end of the first half was a good example, Randolph. I try never to call a timeout in the first half of the game unless it's, absolutely necessary. We played at Central Florida a couple of games ago. We got down 11-2. I said, let's just ride it out because I know my team. But tonight, we were up 20, I think, and they started coming back. I didn't necessarily call timeout schematically or technically. I called timeout because our kids were exhausted, and we just don't have any guard subs. Right. I had two guards with two fouls. One of them was on the floor. The true freshman that had the hand surgery was also out there, Ramon Walker. But Shed needed to come out. I didn't have anybody to put in for him. So I think the biggest adjustment is just monitoring their fatigue and not foul trouble. Because, a couple of games ago, somebody had to play with 3 fouls. We had 2 guys with 3 fouls. So we're a little bit of a perilous situation, a little tightrope deal with no safety net with our fatigue and our numbers. But, we just, when you're a coach, Steve knows this, you just kind of figure it out and keep the train rolling.
Coach, congrats again on a great road win. Can you just talk about the development of Josh Carlton, coming from UConn, averaging 3 points a game, and it's really almost 12 points a game, almost 6-7 rebounds a game. Can you just talk about his transfer, the impact he's had, but also just the development that you guys have had on him and him on your program this year?
Yeah, last year was a tough year for him. Twofold. One, COVID, and then he got an injury. He tested positive for COVID, so he had to go into quarantine. And big guys, that affects big guys more than it do guards. I mean, I think I know what I'm saying. If somebody that's 6'10", 250, you shut him down for 10 days. Then when he came back, he had a kneecap injury. So now that's a double whammy. He never got in shape. He gained some bad weight while he was in COVID. And Danny, who I think is an outstanding coach, recruited a big kid that as a freshman was playing better than Josh was. So Josh started, with the COVID and the knee injury, he just put him far behind and he just never caught up. But we had played him when he was a sophomore when Kevin Ollie was the coach. And my son Kellen, when he saw that Josh was in the portal, he said, Josh Carlton's in the portal. What do you think about him? And these were my exact words. Let's sign him. Because he can play with his back to the basket. But like most big kids, they just need confidence and need somebody to believe in them. And they need the ball and play through it. He's got a little nagging injury. He didn't play as effective as he has been playing. But our backup 5-man was really good tonight. But Josh has been phenomenal with us. Losing Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark, we were kind of looking for a North Star, something that we could chase and give us some direction. And the guy that gave us that was Josh. And then once we established who we're gonna play through, then where the shots were gonna come from, what else we were gonna run, offense wise, came after that. But Josh has been a godsend for us.
Coach, you mentioned the portal, and that's become a buzzword. Obviously, we've seen it around the country, varying levels of success with bringing new guys in. You guys start tonight, 3 guys that are first-year players for you that have come from other programs. And it's astounding to me as I've become, a fan of watching Houston basketball with how hard you guys played last year. That doesn't seem to be different. You may have different faces on the court, but it doesn't feel too different than the team you had last year with all of these new guys. How do you balance bringing in fresh faces to a program, but not losing what makes Houston special as a basketball program?
Yeah, guys, it's no different than when they played Oklahoma either, or even Washington State. That's just something we've always hung our hat on. I think as a coach, you got to have something you hang your hat on. We preach there's three people that can never have a bad practice. That starts with the head coach, best player, and point guard. Fabian White never has a bad practice. Kyler Edwards never has a bad practice. Jamal Shedd's getting there. He's just a freshman. We played three portal guys, but we also played three freshmen tonight too. Jaywan Roberts, Ramon Walker, and Jamal Shedd are all freshmen. But I think it starts with guys that want to come and know what they're getting into. If you come play for us here at Houston, you know what you're getting into. There's no secrets here. Everybody's on TV now. We've been to 2 or 3 Sweet 16s, lost to Kentucky a couple years ago, Final Four last year. So we've been on TV enough, and most of these coaches know what our program's about. So when we recruit a kid and he wants to come here, he's probably a lot like that. For instance, Josh played for Danny Hurley. Danny's a really good, tough coach. Tajay played for Rod Barnes at Cal State Bakersfield. Rod Barnes is tough, man. His kids play hard. I think Kyler Edwards played for Chris Beard at Texas Tech. Look at their program and what Chris is all about. And that was a big part of our decision recruiting kids. We wanted kids that had a background in playing similar to the way we play, so they wouldn't have to come in here and be something they're not. They've been coached hard. They understand what competition is, and they have high character kids. Josh has graduated from college. Tajay has graduated from college. And Kyler's getting close to graduating. Fabian White has graduated from college. So we try never to be young. We've got some good young players in our program, but we try not to depend on freshmen. Jamal made the jump. Last year, he's a COVID freshman. So last year, he didn't play much behind Dejan Giroux. But this year, when Marcus went down, he was ready because of the experiences he had the last couple years.
All right, we were talking off camera while that interview played. Kelvin Sampson is just the real deal, man. Like we caught him on the bus after the game, and we're like, it would be so easy for him to mail in this interview right now. He didn't. Like, he's a captivating man. He really is, just talking to him. The one thing that I really took away from this interview was hearing him talk about a guy like Josh Carlton, and even just watching him tonight, another guy like Fabian White, two guys who not necessarily go-to guys at all in their careers or even for this Houston team. And all of a sudden they're thrown into spots where some of their leading scorers go down, and now they're going for 20 points like Fabian White did the last 2 games. RC, as a player, what's it like for a team when you lose a couple key guys like that and role guys have to step up?
Key guys, let's say they're 2 best players. Like name me a team in the country that you can take their 2 best players from and they don't miss a beat. Now, I think ultimately it'll catch up with them because they're forced to play a lot of guys, a lot of heavy minutes. And as he alluded to, and we spoke on a little bit earlier, foul trouble. Like most teams, you get foul trouble, 2 guys, you got first half, you got to take them out. He's choosing to ride with his guys. Now that gets tough because they're a physical, get after you defensive type of team. So you can't just say, oh, you got 2 fouls, go in and don't foul. They're a physical team. So I think ultimately in the end, that'll catch up with them. I don't believe they'll finish conference play undefeated, even though they've gotten to a heck of a start. but he's as good as there is in the business. And I mean, as good as anybody.
I want to ask you on that. Why not? Why do you think they won't go undefeated? Because this is a conference that might not have another tournament team, right?
True, but I think that depth, we know Memphis is as crazy as that situation is right now. They got the talent to beat them, to get a win, to beat them. So it's just hard to do unless you're just superiorly more talented than everybody else in the league. And there's some other teams with some talent in the league that could give them some trouble, and they don't have the depth.
Coach, can they run the table?
It'll be tough. It's hard to do. I mean, you don't see many teams run the table in conference play. I don't care what league you're in. It's extremely hard to do. And they've got really their 4 road games. I think they're all very tough. At SMU, at Wichita, at Tulane, and then at Memphis. I think all those are going to be really, really tough games. Can they win them all? No question, because of what his team's about and what he stands for. But it's going to be very, very tough to do that.
They got a big week coming up here. They go to SMU Wednesday, the second place team in that conference. Then they host Memphis in a big nationally televised afternoon Saturday game. The schedule makers knew what they were doing, putting Houston at Memphis as the final game of the regular season as well. So we shall see. I'm throwing my hat in the ring here, though. I do think this Houston team could go undefeated. I really do, through conference play. I mean, I've counted them out multiple times this season already. Even, I like to go over to our friends at Bet Rivers and, sprinkle a little change here and there. Like, Houston's bit me a couple times this year when they lose guys, and I'm still wondering how they're laying 10 points. But all they do is continue to win and win in very impressive fashion. So it will be fun to see where they head next. Coming up next on After Dark, we are going to get to some of the biggest results from the weekend, including UCLA's week from hell that ended in a double overtime loss late last night. North Carolina, the Tar Heels, struggling to stay afloat at home against Duke. And then, of course, Kentucky and Alabama, a big win for the Wildcats on the road in the SEC. That is coming up next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
All clear, 90 seconds.
All right, Dagan, let's get some more questions.
Think your number 1 seeds are so far?
For me, it'll be Auburn, Gonzaga, Kentucky. And after this week, I may have to go Arizona.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm open with that. I don't know who I'd go with the last one, but I for sure would go Kentucky, Gonzaga, and Auburn.
Our Fielding the 68 show this week had Gonzaga, Auburn, Baylor, and then Purdue, Kansas were the 2 that the experts were split on.
That would be Kansas. I forget about them. I would go Kansas. I would go Kansas over Arizona.
I liked what Randolph said the first time with Arizona as the 4th number 1 seed right now. Obviously, a lot of people capable of grabbing that, but I think Gonzaga cemented, Auburn cemented. Who's the 3rd team we just said?
Kentucky.
And then I think it could be obviously Arizona, Duke. You've got a couple Kansas that could float in there.
Conference champs will be interesting because I think it'll be hard pressed for the Big Ten winner to not get one. If it's Illinois or Purdue. And then Big 12 winner, you got to think Kansas or Baylor ends up getting one. Does the Pac-12 winner get one? Does the SEC winner get one? Can the SEC get 2 teams in? There's a lot of different ways this can play out, which is why you should watch Fielding the 68, the bracketology show on this very network. It's Greg Waddell with me, Coach Steve Prohm, Randolph Childress, a.k.a. RC. We are into the 3rd quarter of the Field of 68 After Dark, presented as always by Bet Rivers. Please, if you're watching this, go over to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Get your questions in too. Every break, we're getting the questions in from producer Dagan. Please hit us with whatever you want us to answer, and we will get it on camera for you. Guys, let's talk about some of the biggest results from last night. And I think the biggest, at least craziest result from last night was UCLA losing 87-84 in double overtime at Arizona State. Look, tough week for the Bruins. Obviously, the revenge game loss to Arizona, but to follow that up 2 nights later with what is a quad 3 loss as of today, I did not see that coming. RC, did you see that coming?
No, they lost to a bad team. I mean, and I thought coming off of losing to Arizona, you can understand. Tough game, could have went either way. You wouldn't have thought any less of them from that. But for a team that we were starting to talk a lot about, that was a disappointing loss. That was a disappointing effort. I know it was an overtime, but they're just a better team than Arizona State, you would think.
Coach, did you stay up for 2 overtimes last night?
Yeah, really 3 overtimes. I mean, it's a 3 overtime game.
Oh, it's 3. My bad.
Yeah, it's 3 overtimes.
Oh, I fell asleep in the second.
You fell asleep in the second overtime. It did. It went one more. It went one more overtime. And so we'll talk about that if we need to give you an update for that. You did know they lost, though. The one thing that I found when I went back and kind of looked at the game and looked like the rundown of the score, UCLA was up in the last minute of regulation, the last minute of the first overtime, the last 2 minutes of the second overtime, and they weren't able to close. And, Mick Cronin, I followed his career for a long time, him being a former Murray State guy and going against his teams when he was at Cincinnati. Man, his teams are usually focused defensively, tough as nails. They've got to get that stop on the road at Arizona State, get a split, because their schedule, they got to still go to Stanford. They still got to go to SC. They still have to go to Oregon, and they've got Washington State coming to their place, who's kind of sneaky good team. But I thought they had to get out of that one with the win. But that was what I was most disappointed with them. You could talk about their field goal percentage, shot selection, all that stuff. Man, they couldn't close, and 3 different times.
Yeah, so UCLA, both last year when they made the magical run through March, and then this year, like it seems like in a tight game, their game plan down the stretch of these games is, all right, let's get the ball to Johnny Juzang and let's get out of the way. And that's worked in phenomenal fashion plenty of times. But I also think you saw the downside of that before I fell asleep in the second overtime, because he had 2 or 3 chances to win that game, couple turnovers, couple air balls. It's just a little bit of a weird makeup for me, because like as good as Johnny Juzang is, especially off the bounce, like he can get his spot whenever he wants it. He's a tough shot maker. And every team needs that if you're going to go deep into the tournament. But like they've got other guys. Like Tiger Campbell is a very flashy, unselfish point guard that I love seeing. I think the offense hums when he's very heavily involved. Jaquez has his ups and downs, but I fear for them that they fall a little too in love with both the up and the downside of Johnny Juzang as a superstar. RC, is that a horrible take from me, or what do you make of that?
No, I was going to say I'm a big fan of Tiger Campbell, son. I wish they would have the ball in his hands more. I think other people touch it. I don't think it sticks as much. I think his decision-making is really good, and he picks the right moments. He just has a great feel for the game, and I think one of the better point guards in the country in doing so. So I would like for them to have it more in his hands. I get it. Juzang is deserving of it. He is a difficult shot maker, but I would like to see more of the flow of the game in Tiger's hand.
Coach, I got a question for you with UCLA. I'm looking at the box score here. 50 minutes for Jaquez, for Juzang, for Tiger Campbell. 4 minutes off the bench for Peyton Watson. I mean, they essentially played 6 guys last night. How tough is that? Like, what can you win with the rotation that is really that small?
Yeah, that's the one thing when we said we were going to talk about this game a little bit more in depth today, and I went back and looked at the box score and the kind of the rundown. That's what I circled. I had the 50 for those 3 players, a couple other guys almost close to 40, and the bench not much. And obviously I'm used to at times playing 7 guys, but I think as this goes on, as overtime, triple overtime, sometimes it can get away from you because all you're thinking, you're trying to win in the moment and you're trying to have your best players out there. But I think it may have caught up to him a little bit, because when you really look at the stat line last night, and if I was to just say to Randolph, hey, You're going to go on the road. You're going to out-rebound them by 6. You're only going to turn it over 9 times, and they're going to shoot 40% from the field and 33% from 3. You got to think you win, right? But I think a lot of their issues sometimes comes back, like we talked about, from the offensive end, to where even when they went for the game winners of the last couple of possessions, it was tough one-on-one contested shots to try to win it by Jaquez a couple times. You do Zhang. 22% from 3, 37% from the field. I think that's and some of that can be through fatigue because of the minutes.
Coach, how do you balance? Go ahead, RC.
Go ahead. I know. I was going to say, I think a lot of the teams it's one of the things when I look across the landscape of the country right now, that's the big thing that's happening. I don't think there is a lot of depth from the bench. I think that's one of the things I love about Providence is that they have scoring. You have teams that guys hadn't given them 32 points all year from the bench in multiple games. I'd say they've taken them like 4 or 5 games and they have a guy that can do it just in one game. There's so many teams that we look at the better teams in this league, and it's something we'll look at as we get into the tournament is how good their actual bench is. I just think those guys that used to having that depth, they're sitting on someone else's roster right now.
Yeah, that's a decent segue for me to another big game from Saturday, Kentucky over Alabama. And Kentucky is seeing some guys emerge off the bench right now. Damian Collins, for one. He only played 9 minutes, but 10 points, 6 rebounds in this game, making his presence felt. Guys, I was on After Dark Friday evening, and we played a little game of basically call it all facts or no facts. And one of the prompts was Kentucky at full strength is better than Auburn. And I said that's facts. I said that I think this Kentucky team at full strength is the best team in the country right now. And I stand by that. But I guess you guys tell me how wrong I am, because I already had 2 people on the show tell me I was wrong on Friday. Is that nuts? Because I truly believe this team has the highest ceiling in the country when Ty Washington and Severe Wheeler are both on the court for 40 minutes.
You want to take it right now?
You go ahead.
Man, I think they're really good. I think they're complete. And I think when you go to Alabama, there was a stat they popped up on the TV last night. I won't know it exactly, but Alabama hadn't been held under 50 points in forever. And they only scored 55 points last night. When you go on the road and you only give up 55 points, man, you're doing something right, defensively. You're competing, you're scheming, your guys are flying around, they're playing extremely hard. But they've got a guy in the middle in Shibwe. They got point guard play with Ty and Severe. And then they got guys that can make shots with Grady, and Mintz, and a couple other guys that I think they're all in right now. And they're playing extremely, extremely well. The biggest question for me for Kentucky is, can they catch Auburn? Like, will Auburn slip up at all and give them a chance to tie and share for the SEC championship, which I don't know if Auburn will slip up twice.
They almost did, right?
Yeah. It's hard winning on the road, though. I mean, it's hard. I mean, they're the hunted now every game. And credit Georgia, man, for coming back off that Arkansas loss and competing that well. But I don't know if Kentucky can catch them.
They're right there. I mean, I won't argue and say you're crazy. I understand it. Like I said, the only knock I've had all year against Kentucky is, what are they going to do with that guard? How are they going to do? Are they, at one time we were saying they're better with Ty starting and Severe Wheeler not being there. And then it's, that whole, and now them being on the floor together, they're just dynamic duo. The only concerns that I have with them is just taking care of basketball, with Severe Wheeler. I think, again, he had 4 turnovers in this game. And Alabama, it's a tough game. I get it. I won't knock him for that. But his turnover rate concerns me. Their bench I like. I mean, they got guys that started for him. Davian Mintz started for him last year. Toppin played a ton of minutes. Collins plays a ton of minutes. So they got guys that, they can rotate. They're going to go at least 9 deep. And I don't think many teams can say that.
Yeah, they're absolutely better when Ty Washington is on the floor, whether that's starting, whether it's not. I mean, that's the guy to me. That's the guy to me who is the ceiling raiser for this team. All right, I want a pointed answer from you two. Let's say that Kentucky and Auburn get their wish, Oscar Tshiebwe's wish of these two teams meet again. Let's say they meet in the Final Four, neutral site in New Orleans. The Field of 68 will be there. Who wins that game? You got to pick one. I'm going Kentucky. Coach, who are you taking?
I'm still going Auburn. I'm still going Auburn right now, man. I'm really impressed watching Kentucky go to Alabama and handle them the way they did. And Kentucky obviously had the huge win against Tennessee and the huge win last week that they had. But, man, Auburn, they're going to be tested on the road. They're going to have some tight games. But the sign of a good team, the sign of character, all the intangibles, you go to Missouri and you figure out a way. You go to Georgia and you figure out a way. I'm staying with Auburn until they prove me wrong or somebody proves us wrong or prove me wrong.
I'm going with Auburn, and I got to ask you, as much as you like Ty Washington, do you like him better than Jabari?
I don't like him better than Jabari, but I think I like.
Because you're talking about two talented guys, right? I mean,
it's two very talented guys. I like the puzzle pieces of Kentucky as a whole more than I like Auburn's. Like, I think as much as I love Wendell Green, do I trust Wendell Green 100% for 6 straight games? I don't know.
Do you trust Severe Wheeler?
I feel like.
Who do you trust more in that matchup? Because every time I ask you,
it's pretty close.
Who do you trust more? Who do you trust? I'm asking you. Who do you trust?
I'll tell you the one trade I trust the most out of the two teams truly is Oscar Tshiebwe's motor and just how physical he is. I mean, he leads the country in offensive and defensive rebounds. Like, he, to me, is the force that makes Kentucky go. And then you just surround him with these shooters. You surround him with these dynamic guards who can each do a little bit of something else. Like, that to me is the recipe. Is that better than what Jabari Smith brings individually? No, of course not. But I think Auburn, to me, at least from what I've seen, Wendell Green, like, it's the Wendell Green show when the going gets tough. And that worked with a buzzer beater down the stretch, a pretty sloppy buzzer beater, but 6 games straight in March, that scares me a little more than what Kentucky has to offer.
I like them both. I just said that both of them are number 1 seeds. It's tomato here. It's tomato. So it's making it look like I'm crushing Kentucky here, and I'm not. I got you as the number 1 seed.
The one thing, if you are concerned about Kentucky and the turnovers, man, Auburn, man, the way they compete, the way they pressure, the way they guard, that's going to be hard to go against. And I don't think you can look at it. I know you got to win 6 games. But Bruce Pearl, I don't think he's thinking, hey, we got to win 6 games, man. He's just trying to win this game and then the next game, and then they reset. And so I think it's many weekends, and it's going to add up to 6 at the end of the day. But it'll be a phenomenal rematch. I don't know. Auburn doesn't go to Kentucky, do they? I don't think they do.
No.
And so if the SEC tournament, I believe, is in Nashville. If they can meet for the SEC championship there, that'll be a lot of fun to watch. The thing about that is that'll be a Kentucky home game, because if you ever been in the SEC tournament, whether it's in Atlanta, or it's in Memphis back when I was in school, or Nashville, man, Kentucky's coming hard, man, with the Go Big Blue chant.
I gotta say, I've seen Kentucky home games up here in the Midwest. I've seen it in Michigan for tournament games before. So. All right, we're going to go back to a break here, but coming up, we will tell you who the number 1 team in the country should be. Does Auburn lose that title, narrowly escaping at Georgia? Does Gonzaga win that title with a 30-point blowout against BYU? We will tell you after the break.
Clear, 90 seconds.
Dagan, what you got for us?
Let's jump right into it. Let's make a pick for Tuesday night. Purdue, Illinois. What we got?
Where's that game at? Is that at Illinois?
At Purdue, in Mackey.
Got to be Purdue. Too tough at Mackey.
Purdue. I mean, it's just that's their tough matchup, I think, for Illinois.
Very excited to see what Kofi does against that front court, though. That's a good one.
Rematch. That'll be fun to see. No question.
I think Purdue as well, but I'm expecting a big game from him. I think they got after him a little bit the first time around. I want to see how he responds.
If Illinois wins that game,
it's over.
Shoot.
If they win that, it's over.
For Purdue,
over.
it is. Maybe not the other three. For Purdue, it definitely is.
I think Purdue's the only team good enough to beat them going forward. I think they're better than Michigan State. I think they're better than Wisconsin. And I think they're better than Ohio State.
That's fair. Another one, Dagan?
Yes. Shaka, Cooley, or Tommy Lloyd for Coach of the Year.
30.
Or someone else.
Give me Cooley.
They're all well deserving, but I would say Cooley right now, but they're all obviously.
Who was the other one again? It was Shaka and who?
Tommy Lloyd.
Shaka, Cooley, Tommy Lloyd.
I mean,
you
got
to
to
throw
say
Sampson on there too, right? I'm going to say we got to throw Kelvin on there, right? Like
I did say or someone else, so there you go.
Come on, man. Yeah. I mean, God, that's so hard. I would not want to have that vote this year. I go to Ed right now.
You're live.
It's the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Greg Waddell. Got Steve Prohm and Randolph Childress with me as well. We are on Sirius XM Radio Channel 84 ESPNU, as well as YouTube and Twitter on the Field of 68. All right, Gonzaga made their case last night. Another dominant win, this time at BYU, a BYU team who has been notoriously tough at home for the last few years. Bad week for BYU. They had a couple losses this week, but this is about Gonzaga. This is about Gonzaga reasserting themselves. They were the number one team for a little bit. They fell to number two. They had some hiccups in the non-conference. And as they typically do under Mark Few, they are humming in conference play. Yet again, Chet Holmgren buzzing on the draft boards. He's been mocked number one by a couple different people this week. I'll put it just point blank. Is Gonzaga the best team in the country right now? Coach Steve Prohm, what's your answer?
No, I mean, I'm very impressed with what they're doing. I'm not gonna move Auburn. If I had a vote, Auburn will be number one. I could put Gonzaga two very easily. It's impressive. People can say, well, it's West Coast Conference. No, what they're doing right now and the dominant force that they're playing with, they have not won a league game by less than 16 points. They've won several by 30, a couple by 34. They're balanced. Their starting five averages from 10 points to 18. The three guys off the bench, Watson and Hickman and Hunter Salas, are coming along and getting more minutes like we talked about earlier with the bench. And they've scored 90 plus 8 of the last 10 games. And one of the games was 89. Very deserving of a 2 seed, a number one overall seed for what they did in the non-conference. What I'm impressed about Gonzaga is they're not screwing around in league play right now. They are dominating. My biggest takeaway from last night is how many teams does a West Coast Conference get in? BYU's in 5th place right now in that league. Are they an NCAA tournament team? Can that league get 4 or 5 teams in?
I think they can, but BYU's got to flip the script here real quick. I mean, they've started slipping in a way that I didn't really anticipate them to slip. I think I may be misremembering this, but I think BYU was ranked as highly as 12th earlier this season after starting off really, really well in non-conference.
I think they beat Oregon. Was it Oregon they beat pretty bad early, right?
Yeah, it was
beat them really bad.
Or in the Phil Knight thing. Yeah, they beat them by like 32.
Beat them really bad.
I still think they're talented enough, and they should be, but resume-wise, I think they got some work to do. But you're right, that conference, St. Mary's, San Francisco, both look like absolute tournament teams for me right now. And you got to hope at least BYU can get there to make it at least 4 for that conference right now. But RC, your take on Gonzaga. Is this the best team in the country right now? They're number 2. They may be number 1 tomorrow. Should they be?
No, I'm not going to penalize Auburn, but they personally how I feel. I think they're the best team. I think I've been high on them all year. I think they'll be the team that cut down nets. I'll say this to you guys. I'll pose this question to you. What conference would they be in that we wouldn't project them to win? What league?
I'm not.
I mean.
Yeah. What league? I think they got depth. They throw, no matter what guy we talk about, they got bodies to throw at them. I don't know what league we could put them in that we wouldn't feel comfortable saying that they'd win the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them. If you throw them in the Big 12 or the SEC right now, that'd be a phenomenal race with those three-headed monsters at the top in both leagues. But no, you're right. I mean, Gonzaga preseason was sort of the big bully with Chet Holmgren coming, with Drew Timme back. I think everybody anticipated this to be the number one team. And then I think the moment that changed, or at least they fell off the narrative, was the loss to Alabama. But again, we know this Alabama team can beat anybody any given night. Like, as much as Alabama is up and down, I believe they still have the most quad 1A wins, which is the elite win category in college basketball. Alabama's best is as good as anybody's best. And Gonzaga was not their best that night. But man, if that was going to be the valley of their peak and valley season, which again, that was back in December, but they have turned things around in a crazy way. Like you said, Coach, I mean, a 16-point win against San Francisco, who again is a really good basketball team, a 33-point win at BYU. I mean, that's unheard of. And Chet Holmgren is doing some things on the basketball court right now. Okay. I talked about this the other day. Like, I think as far as best freshman in the country goes, early in the season, it was Paolo Banchero, and that was kind of the consensus. And then Jabari Smith sort of had his coming out party, and he was doing things that, quite frankly, Paolo wasn't doing on the floor from a shot making standpoint. And now I think Chet Holmgren's going to start to have his moment with what he brings as a shot blocker, the shooting percentage from three, even off the dribble at his size. I think we're starting to see him get comfortable and blossom a little bit.
People are going to take notice of him and see him as tournament time comes around. And that's when they're going to get appreciation, where the East Coast bias comes in and you're just not having a level of respect. One, not respecting how good that league is this year. Like you said, San Francisco, St. Mary, they'll be there in the end. I think they'll cut down the nets is my prediction, but we'll get to that.
Wow. That's bold.
I do. I think they will. I think they'll be right there.
Coach, I mean, where do you have these guys going in March?
Man, they got a legitimate chance to get to the Final Four. There's no question about it. They got good guard play. They got somebody they can throw it inside to, and they got a guy that can protect the rim. But that's the same thing we're talking about when we say Auburn. It's the same thing we're talking about when we say Kentucky. They got all three phases. When you talk about perimeter guard play, you talk about guys' ability to make shots, guys that can put the basketball in the hole, and then somebody that can protect the rim. And they've got two up front with Holmgren and Timme that are just, they're different. You know what I mean? They're different, so they can.
Coach, I got to cut you off. We're going to wrap. This is the Field of 68 After Dark. Stick around for us on the afters over on our YouTube channel. All right, we're going right into it. I cut off the great Steve Prohm as he was telling us how great Gonzaga is. It's right back to you. Ball's back in your hands, Coach.
No, I just, it's just saying, with Holmgren and Timme, it just gives them a front court presence, one that can really score. I mean, Holmgren's line last night, what was it, 20 points?
17 rebounds.
17 rebounds, 6 blocks or 5 blocks, 6 assists. What happens, and I think Randolph was saying this earlier, is, and he's already going to be a top 1, 2, 3 pick, whatever you're going to say, Paulo, Jabari. But what happens in the NCAA tournament with certain guys, and I saw it when I was in school with one of the guys that played at Alabama. You go to NCAA tournament, you may be in that 15 to 20 range. Now, this isn't Chet. And then you play the first round, and you go get 39 points and 22 rebounds. Now, all of a sudden, you're a top 10 pick. And then you get 22 and 17. Now you're top 5 pick. And now you're legit. Then you go do the workouts, and now you're a legit 1 or 2 pick. And so from that standpoint, he's got a chance to, in that tournament and that run, if they make it to New Orleans, to solidify himself as the number 1 pick in the NBA draft.
RC, you're the GM of the NBA team drafting first. Who are you taking in this loaded draft class?
Early in the year, I was hands down Paulo Banchero. I really was. It was like, it's not even close. But Chet has closed that gap a lot on me. And he's given me something to think about. I don't know. Before it was hands down. Jabari had his moment, but I still was more Paulo Banchero. I like what Chet can become. I like his ability to shoot the basketball right now more than Paulo Banchero. I just think Paulo is more physically ready to go right now. But if I had to pick, I may still stay with Paulo. But man, I would. that would be something when I laid eyes in on that workout, and whichever one impressed me the most in the workout, that's where we're going. I think it's that close.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see where this goes come NBA draft time, because this is 3 franchise level players to me. And my Detroit Pistons, fingers crossed, are going to have a shot at one of them, fellas. It's been long overdue. We got Cade. We need one more, man. You talk about Cade and Chet. You roll that out in Detroit. That's the greatest show Detroit's seen since RC was watching your guys in the Lions, man.
Yeah, everyone didn't hear that story yet live.
Well, it's the afters. Now we can.
Greg, you just skipped over the whole Bad Boys generation. Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. All right, we're in the middle.
Got a little history.
A little history here and there.
He was getting on me about my son. I told the story, everybody, about my son. Missing my son. I missed almost the birth of my son Brandon because I went to the Detroit Lions game, see Barry Sanders. So he's giving me a hard time about that.
Hey, these are the stories that can come out in the afters on the field of 68. That's where we're at right now.
As long as Jeff Goodman's not telling them.
Right.
Make sure you get your questions in. We'll take some from the YouTube channel right now. Dagan, we got anything good right now?
Yes, we do. We talked a lot about it last night. And RC, I really want to get your opinion on this. Mm-hmm. What is the ACC ceiling in the NCAA tournament behind Duke?
Behind Duke, wow. Right now, I'd say Notre Dame gets in. Wake, and that's it. And that would be and it's hard to say because we did the other night. We did, Steve, we did the blind resumes, and hell, we both picked Wyoming over Wake Forest's resume, right? So, I mean, you can make and I know this sounds bad for some. I mean, the ACC is record-wise, it's going to be tough to get them in. I'm going to go right now. Aside from Duke, I'll go Notre Dame. Wait, right now. That's that. I can't go further than that. You can't tell me Carolina. I just can't see it. It's not that they've lost. It's been butt whoopings. It's been 20-point plus in those games, and let's just call it what it is. That's not going to work.
You can't be 0-7 and have quad one, and the average loss be 20 points and think you're a definite NCAA tournament team. At some point, you got to win. You got to win. You got to win some of those games. The problem is they're no more ahead of them. It's got to be the ACC tournament. It's got to be Duke at Duke, and then Miami. They still got an outside chance.
All right. I like it. All right, let's jump back in here. Another question. Let's see. Can USC make the Elite Eight?
No.
Elite Eight?
No.
Elite Eight?
No.
Right,
I would have thought you would have said maybe Arizona. I would have more faith in Arizona. I think that's, who's had a better week than they have the last 3 weeks.
Last year they did.
Yeah.
This
might be a spicy Pac-12 take, but I think I would take Oregon in the NCAA tournament more than I would take USC. I think that team has a higher ceiling.
Who's second? They're second place in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah, maybe that's not that spicy, honestly.
Yeah.
With how far they've come, I really like that Ducks team, and Dana Altman too.
Yeah.
And
they always just kind of figure it out. Everybody's ready to write them off. November, December. Now they're second place in the Pac-12.
Yeah. We didn't do any deep dive on Duke, North Carolina. I feel obligated to at least discuss the butt whooping that was Duke heading into Chapel Hill. Did you guys see that coming? Obviously we can talk now and say North Carolina's on the outside looking in, but pregame, I was saying North Carolina's 3-point underdogs at home. They're undefeated at home. I talked myself into the Tar Heels pregame, and I felt pretty stupid watching that play out.
Yeah, I think we talked about it that night, and we had to give our picks. And I think we said, man, Duke and by double figures, go in there. And then I saw Rob's tweet about he probably shouldn't have taken Carolina in the points or whatever. But man, Duke was – I tell you what, Duke's credit, man, second half, they came out that 12-0 run and just ended it. Mm-hmm. They just ended it. Now, Carolina, man, they missed a couple shots early, but, man, Duke just – and they were good last night. And that was Carolina's chance in front of us all to say, hey, man, you're wrong about us.
I thought Carolina was gonna rise up to the occasion and get the W. Having seen them twice since they had lost to Miami and had lost to Wake, they came home and taken care of business against Virginia Tech, and then they had beat the brakes off NC State, and then they started getting things going. They had BC in between. They were just starting to win some games. Their defense at home, they were defending. I thought, like, okay, if they play this type of defense on their home, it'll continue. Prior to that game, no one had scored. They were giving up. They were tied the record for the same as Jordan led national championship team. They've only given up 61 points a game at home. So I'm thinking, all right, they're going to go in there, this rivalry game. That place is going to be crazy. And I thought they was going to get the win. And I was on the call with the Miami and Virginia game. And I'm telling you guys, before I get off the set, like I'm sitting there and it's like, we talking to the producers. I'm getting off set. I sit everything down, kind of gathering my stuff, small talking. And I look up and it's like, oh, Duke's up 20. Like, what? Yeah. And I mean, I can't defend it. I mean, I would have lost money that night.
Yeah, Duke, man, they look bigger, faster, stronger, more connected. I mean, they were really good in Carolina. Carolina wasn't. And now Carolina, I mean, they got a tough one at Clemson that's coming up this week. That's going to be hard to win at Clemson. That's a tough place to play.
Yeah, RC, I can relate to just checking the score. Like, wait, what? It was date night in the Waddell household, being the good husband that I am. I scheduled a little dinner date right after the Michigan State game ended, which was right as Duke, North Carolina was tipping off. I had convinced myself North Carolina could win this game. I had responsibly sprinkled a little money over at Bet Rivers. I drive to dinner. It's a 10-minute drive. It's the little local spot. We walk in, there's a TV. I make sure I get the table with the TV behind so I can see. They're down 16 points. Like, it took 10 minutes for that game to be over and for me to lose my money responsibly at Bet Rivers. So.
And you lost your money for that dinner that night.
Yeah, there you go. You got a double whammy.
Pass the bill to the wife. It is what it is. It's a team effort in the Waddell household. We get it. All right, fellas, let's do our 3 cheers. And this could be from something today. This could be from something in the weekend. Whatever you want to cheers to, I won't stop you. RC, why don't you take the first cheers here?
My cheers goes to the Arizona Wildcats here. I think having the week of beating UCLA and USC, I don't think it gets any better than that. We questioned it. Prior to that, we were talking about it and questioned. They hadn't played anybody. They answered the bell.
Big week for Kirk Risa, too. A guy who I have been very antagonistic towards, and I'm starting to love watching him, but I've just been adamant that a Kirk Risa-led team is not a championship team in the backcourt. And I'm starting to eat my words on that a little bit because, man, he's both extremely fun, and he got it done for him this week at the highest level. Impressive stuff. All right, Coach, who you cheersing to?
I'm going to cheers to the Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson. First time I really got a chance to kind of just one-on-one outside of just hello and small chat, but to listen to him talk and answer questions was just really, really impressed with his answers and what he's doing down there at the University of Houston. Tremendous road win, 12 wins in a row. They got a big week, obviously, with SMU and Memphis, but 3 cheers to the Cougars and what he's been able to do with a lot of adversity down there.
Yeah, I came away extremely impressed as well with Mr. Sampson. All right. My cheers is going to go to a team that won today, the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, who have not been playing great ball for the last month, but we're holding on to a thread atop that conference. They could not lose this game on the road at Missouri State. Today, it was a revenge game. They had lost at their place just a couple weeks ago. And what did they do? They came out, they held Isaiah Mosley, who went for 40 the first game, to just 12 points, shot 47% from 3, and kind of waltzed their way to a 9-point win to hold on to first place. And, fellas, as a Rambler fan that I am, I got the Coach Drew t-shirt right here. So to Drew Valentine and the Ramblers, cheers.
I love it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Any last words, boys? This was a fun one.
Big one tomorrow night, Kansas at Texas, Arizona State.
Who you got in Kansas, Texas, Coach? Who you got?
Kansas.
Oh, yeah, the Jayhawks. Texas needs to win it, but Kansas is rolling right now. Their focus is really, really at a high level, man.
I can already see the line.
And Arizona State get another upset in Tempe tomorrow night.
No way.
No.
No way.
Yeah, Magic ran out on that one. Kansas, Texas opens at Kansas -1 with our friends over at Bet Rivers. Interesting.
Get some money in there.
Yeah, that's no matter who, if you feel strongly either side, that's a good one. Go on over to Bet Rivers, our partners, and make sure you sprinkle a little money responsibly.
Go to 68 tomorrow night, Greg.
Yes, sir. Your favorite show, Coach.
I'm going to watch tomorrow night. I'm going to watch tomorrow night.
You tell me anytime you want to come on as a guest on that one, Steve. We'll make sure we make room for you.
I'm going to see if they got Providence like at about a 9 seed.
Hey, listen, hey, Steve, we got to get on there and find out who's putting these teams in the tournament, man. Who's ranking these teams, man?
Got Providence on the bubble. They're winning the Big East.
Hey, joke's on you. Joke's on you. Our bracketologist experts are
Carolina's
just
a 5 seed.
And Dagan's got Washington in the tournament. He got 8 Pac-12.
That's right, 8 Pac-12 teams.
Dagan's
Come on, man.
I'm on the Bill Walton.
Washington State an 8-9 game.
Oh man, they're gonna flip it on you right when you think the joke's on them, but they're gonna flip it and just make fun of us and every dumb thing we said tonight on the Fielding 68. That was a great promo, Steve. Fielding the 68, the Field of 68's bracketology
tomorrow
show.
Night, right? That's
Monday night and Friday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tune in so you can watch the takes that Steve Prohm loves so much.
Randolph and I will be the one on burner accounts tweeting at you guys.
Tweet.
There you go. Again, this is the Field of 68 After Dark. Please like, subscribe to the channels. For Coach Steve Prohm, for Randolph Childress, my name is Greg Waddell. We will see you tomorrow night.